What is up, everyone? It's your boy Moto. I'm back today with another video. And in today's video, I want to talk about good beginner bikes, especially as we are knee deep into riding season. I want to talk about good beginner bikes to help somebody else get started with their motorcycling journey. Because when I started riding, there wasn't nearly as many choices as we have today as far as beginner bikes. But today we've got so many choices. So I want to help somebody, maybe narrow it down a little bit. So I'm going to talk about some really good beginner bikes. This won't cover everything. And this is not going to be a comprehensive breakdown, but a quick look with some of the specs. And I'm only going to do budget-friendly motorcycles and insurance-friendly motorcycles. So motorcycles like the Aprilia RS 660, the Triumph Daytona 660, or even the Kawasaki ZX4 will not be making the cut because of the price. So to kick things off, we're going to start with Honda and the CB300R. Now this motorcycle is actually the cheapest motorcycle that I'm going to mention today. Not only is it the cheapest motorcycle, lightest. However, it's also the smallest and the least powered motorcycle. So that's something to think about as well. But it's a great looking motorcycle with its neo retro design. So if saving some money is on your to-do list, this might be a good option for you. Next motorcycle is going to be the CB500 Hornet. Now, this motorcycle is a step up from the CB300, and you get an extra cylinder. This one is a 2-cylinder, and a 2-cylinder, in my opinion, is going to have some perks to it that the 1-cylinder CB300 does not have. And to give you an example, I feel like a single cylinder motorcycle will do better in a setting where you're mostly riding in town or in some other urban environment, city or anything. I feel like a single cylinder will shine more in that environment because of the torque, and usually the single cylinders are lighter weight. But the CB500, having that extra cylinder, is going to give you more up top. And what I mean by that, it'll probably benefit you more on the highway. So if you're going to be doing more highway riding, I would say it'll be better that you look into the CB500 Hornet over the CB300. Next up, all right, the next bike will be the Kawasaki Z500. And very similar to the CB500 Hornet, you've got a twin-cylinder bike. But to call it a 500, I think it's a bit of a stretch because it's 451 cc's. Just like the Honda, calling it a 500 is a bit of a stretch because it's 471 cc's. But I would say the Kawasaki may be a better motorcycle than the CB500, as it's lighter. Price is similar, but Both platforms are tried and true, and they're both reliable. So they're very similar. So it's going to depend. It's really going to come down to which bike you prefer the looks of the most. After that, we've got the Yamaha MT3, and this motorcycle is another twin cylinder motorcycle. So you've got that extra cylinder to benefit you if you're going to be riding on the highway a lot. As a matter of fact, I'll just say this: if you're going to be riding on the highway a lot, I would definitely encourage you to go with a twin cylinder motorcycle or more. Twin to a 3 to a 4, any of them. I don't really recommend a single cylinder for a lot of highway use. But anyway, back to the MT3. The MT3, it's got less CCs than your Honda and your Kawasaki, but it's still a great motorcycle. So if you're in the Yamaha, I know some people, they are they're only in certain brands, they're brand specific. So if you're in the Yamaha, then check out the MT3. After the Yamaha, we have the Aprilia Tuono 457. Now, the Aprilia Tuono 457 is actually the most expensive bike out of the bikes that I'll talk about today. But it's pretty much because you're paying for a premium brand with Aprilia. Only downside is Aprilia's dealer network is not that strong. There's not that many Aprilia dealerships out there, but you are getting a bike. It's a twin cylinder, so there's a perk. Out of all the bikes that I've been talking about, it's one of the bikes that have a higher amount of horsepower. Only thing, like I said, the dealer network. But the great thing is, you won't see that many Aprilias out there on the road. So if you get an Aprilia, you're going to stand out. You'll be different from everybody else. And, I know that matters to some people. Some people, they don't want the same bike that everybody else has. And if you don't want the same bike everybody else has, then hey, the Aprilia may be for you. After the Aprilia, we'll go with the KTM RC390. At this point, they should just call it the RC400, being that it's they bumped up the displacement to 399. It used to be 370 cc's or around that. But now you've got another single cylinder motorcycle. I will say this though, out of all the single cylinder motorcycles so far, with what I found, this is the only one that can actually exceed 100 miles per hour from what I found when I researched them all. I didn't want to give top speeds of each motorcycle. And the reason I say that is because top speed is sometimes it's going to depend on the weight of a rider and the stature. Smaller people are able to tuck behind the bike more. So therefore, obviously, they may be able to get more top speed. But I do know, when I was doing the research, this is the only single cylinder of the beginner bikes that I'm talking about today. This is the only one that I found that actually broke 100 miles per hour. And the RC390 is also going to be the single cylinder with the highest horsepower out of all the single cylinder motorcycles that I'm talking about today. So it's going to be more performance oriented than the other singles. So that's something to keep in mind if that's what you're into. You want more performance. Next up, we've got the Triumph Speed 400. We have another single cylinder motorcycle from another premium brand, Triumph. Now, I personally think the Triumph Speed 400 is one of the best looking singles out of this list of motorcycles that I'm talking about. It's got that nice retro styling, and it's a Triumph. You should be able to get parts for it anywhere, to be honest. After the Triumph, I'm going to go with the CF Moto NK450. Now, this one is going to be a twin cylinder motorcycle. And the reason it's called the 450 NK, the NK stands for naked, is a naked bike. And this may be one of the best bikes on this list. Um, I know there's not a whole lot known about CF Moto at the moment. They haven't been around nearly as long as the other brands. But honestly, I haven't heard a whole lot. I haven't heard a whole lot of bad things about CF Moto. So far, all I've heard is good things about CF Moto. So, and this thing is priced right there with the Kawasaki Z500, the same CCs, and about the same. It's almost identical to the Kawasaki Z500. You would think that the Kawasaki Z500 was the blueprint, and maybe it was. I don't know, but I do know this is probably going to be one of your best bikes to look at. After the CF Moto 450 NK, after that bike, I would say take a look at the Royal Enfield, the Gorilla 450. It also is another single cylinder motorcycle. So, being that it's a single cylinder, you're doing a lot of highway, I would not recommend a single cylinder for lots of highway use. But it's priced at a good price. So if you're budget conscious and you got a budget you want to stick to, maybe consider that bike as well. I don't know what's going on over here, but anyway, yeah, that's a bike to consider. And if you want to do some light off-roading with that, a beginner bike to do some light off-roading, maybe consider the Royal Enfield 450 Scrambler. Now, today I mostly covered standard motorcycles, and it's a beautiful house, standard motorcycles or naked motorcycles. Now, all the motorcycles that I mentioned today, they all have a fully fared version of those bikes. Now, the reason I did not mention the bikes that were fully fared, because as a beginner, you know, maybe as a beginner you don't want to fool around with fairings. Maybe as a beginner you've got other stuff that you want to focus on. So that's why I didn't really mention the fully counterparts to those bikes. But if you think you're wanting to have something that's fully fared, then I would tell you to go look into things like the Ninja 500, the CF Moto 450 SS, Yamaha R3, or the Aprilia RS 457. Either way, like I said, there's a fully fared version of all of those motorcycles. And that is going to pretty much wrap up today's video. And if you are new to riding or even looking to get into a motorcycle, hey, I hope this video will help you in making your decision, and your decision with your first motorcycle. And some of these motorcycles, I want to say this too before I end the video. Some of these motorcycles, the Kawasaki, the Honda, the CB500, the NK450, even some of these motorcycles are good beginner motorcycles that you can still keep. After you get good enough, you can keep some of these motorcycles and start your own little collection. You can mess around and have your few motorcycles. So here's the hoping that everybody will have a great rest of their day, and catch y'all on the next one.